Welcome to the DFL before DNF podcast. I like to do these sort of like mini seasons within my larger seasons where I go into depth on starting businesses because I've been an entrepreneur, I've been in some different industries, so I can appreciate what it takes to get something off the ground. But at the same time, I just love this industry so much. I love trail running, obviously. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with, how relatively new it is to some degree, and the way that entrepreneurs are digging in and making it bigger, making it better, bringing innovation to it. And so I've done that in the past with brands like Speedland or Satisfy Running. And I love to get the whole story. I mean, if you think about NPR's How I Built This, like I wanted to bring sort of a how I built this to trail running, because we all love it, we obsess over it, we think about it. So just more content, the better. And so today, I'm going to go into depth with Path projects. And Path first came on my radar probably the same time a lot of you who are consuming this did. Is Billy Yang did a video a number of years ago where I think he was in a hotel room. And when he was in the hotel room, he was just going through the gear that he's using at the time. And that meant a lot to me at the time because, I was loving the sport. There wasn't a ton of content. Billy was the king of content, kind of is the king of content within ultra trail running. And he talked about these shorts. And the shorts, he talked about, you got the liner and you've got the short. And he said that with Path, they're separate. And I don't know, and we'll find this out today, did Path come up with that? It was the first time I heard about it. And when I sort of adopted that, doing my shorts that way, the lower back, like the problems I would have in my lower back with the way that everything would rub down there and all the problems I would have, it went away. And so I had been paying attention to Path for a little while. I even emailed you like within the first month of Borderlands starting when I was living in Copenhagen, because I've just been interested in it. And there's been something even in the last number of, I don't know, year, months, where there seems to be like something growing, something happening there. And so today, I'm really excited to have co-founders of Path, Scott and Brian, with me today. Scott Bailey. First, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad you're here. So let's just start here. This is kind of funny. Like I was starting Borderlands. I had left being in the coffee industry. We had done a private equity thing, and I was just looking to get back into passion. And so I was just like looking at the lay of the land to see what other trail running businesses are out there. And I didn't come across Path. I was like, well, hey, I'm going to email Scott. And you responded. You don't have to remember this, but first off, it was cool that you responded. And second, just that would have been 2022, that Path was, I don't know, how would you characterize Path in 2022? Because it does seem like, Path now is different than 2022. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's changed a lot in the last 18 months, I would say.
Okay.
Since Brian came on, really.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was really like most companies start to solve a problem. And for me, I was doing adventure running, solo, loved my shoes, loved a lot of my gear, hated my running shorts. I would chafe, things would fall out of my pocket. And I was also doing commute running from my company home to train. And I'd have to run with a belt to hold things because things were it just didn't work. And being in the apparel industry and the footwear industry for a lot of years, I could tell that running shorts were mostly made by footwear companies and they were an afterthought.
Oh.
Where shoes was their main thing, running shorts was an afterthought.
Yeah.
They used terrible materials. They didn't really put any thought into how the pockets were. It was Velcro or no zippers because zippers are expensive. And at the time, it just, I couldn't find a pair of running shorts. I went on this just a search to find the best running short. And I probably ordered 20 pair, not a pair I liked.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head and with other people, I was just like, there's an opportunity here. But I had a company, One Distribution, that I had had for 13 years, and it was a big global company doing footwear and apparel, Crew and Supra. And we ended up selling the company. I exited, and I was fairly young, and I said, I want to do a running short company. I want to make the best shorts in the world.
Okay.
And I partnered with a friend of mine, Eric Frey, who had been at Rick Curl in product development and a lot of different companies. Really, really great technical designer.
Yeah.
And I just said, do you want to do this with me? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So we set off to kind of make the ultimate running short and just some shirts to go along and hats. But the idea was, basically really high quality, not big logos, timeless design, using the best materials and kind of innovating everything.
Okay, you kind of blew my mind a little bit with that, because I think back to shorts that I would buy as a runner. It was Brooks. It was always shoe companies. Mm-hmm. Do you think, and we're just speculating here, but it's an interesting question. Were they just like trying to grow revenue? It's like, we're a shoe company, but hey, we can increase the checkout, let's get some shorts in there. So it was always just those little liners that were in those shorts that I always cut them out, but I don't.
Yeah, I was wearing the Brooks like 2-in-1.
Yeah.
Was like the short that I wore. And then I loved the Arc'teryx, but they had like terrible things to them and really bad liners.
Yeah.
So I was running in the Brooks one, and I knew it was so subpar. So I kind of was working on the whole idea of like, and for me, I'm a big business plan guy of like, how do you do it? Not just can you make the right product, but where are you going to sell it? And how are you going to get it to the consumer?
Yeah.
And the biggest problem I had was that when I went in running shops, it was all shoes and rounder racks with bad running apparel.
That's so true.
And our stuff was going to be a higher price point.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to be on a rounder rack. It just wouldn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So I kind of and I would think of the business plan while I was running. So that was a lot of my thought process in businesses while I'm running.
Yeah.
So I was thinking through everything, but the part I couldn't get through was, where am I going to sell it? Mm-hmm. There was that hole. And kind of what happened is that I had sold my company. I was up in Northern California with a friend I went to college with. He was asking me what I was going to do. We were drinking some wine, and I said, I really want to start this running short company. And I kind of told him what it was about and using the best materials and doing all this, but I don't know where to sell it. I'm thinking consumer direct.
Yeah.
And that's when he came to me and he said, oh, there's this brand QU that makes hunting gear. He is a big hunter. And he said, it's this amazing consumer direct brand. All the stuff sells out and da-da-da. And he brought me.
What year would this have been?
This was like 2017.
Okay.
So I, somewhere in there,
Wow.
16, 17, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think it was early 16. So then I saw what they were doing, and then that kind of helped me finish the business plan. And we actually launched the brand in 2018, kind of based on the QU model of what they were doing.
Okay.
As a consumer direct brand.
Did you, in my mind, the first time I heard about separating the liner from the short, and I can't overemphasize why that's so important. It is such a different experience. Had anyone else done that yet?
No. And
it seems like such a simple thing. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, how come I've never just done that?
We came about it more by accident.
Okay.
Because we were designing the short and building the short.
Yeah.
And then we were trying different liner materials. We had the right short, but we kept trying different liner materials. And then we were testing them in different climates. And some would work better in one climate, and some would work better in the other. And so instead of having a new factory build a new liner every time, we said, can you build it separate? That way we can test the liner and the short separate, and we can get the right liner without you building a new short every time, and then we'll sew it in.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But then what we found out is work way better separate.
Yeah.
So,
oh man.
And then when we came across this, and I just said, this works so much better, the idea was, do we make one with a sewn-in liner and one without, or do we make them all without? And a guy I knew who was a big runner and very experienced, he was one of the top people at REI.
Okay.
Matt Hyde. I was at lunch with Matt, and I told him, that I found this and I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go all one way or do something totally different. And he goes, it makes so much sense, go all in on it. So we did, and we just went through the whole idea of educating people. And we found so many runners that basically said, like, you know what, I was cutting the liner out of all my shorts and wearing some other underwear with it.
Yeah.
and making it work.
Yep.
And that was kind of where it started from the short. So that's the origin story of it.
I mean, it's incredible. It's always interesting with like this, like 2024, 2016, that there's still something that's so simple that can be brought to like an industry. Because I mean, we've been running, since the 70s, or there's been running brands, for a while, and that there's still something that's like, I don't want to say low hanging fruit, but it is simple. Like it was such a simple thing. All you did was separate those, but then the bounce is gone when you put stuff in your pockets. It just seems like brilliant.
We call it independent suspension basically because when you run, it moves your liner if it's sewn in, so it creates chafing.
Yes.
And when it's separate, your liner stays around your body, set, and your short can move on top of the liner.
Yeah.
So all your movement is kind of protecting the base liner is protecting your body.
Yeah.
So the elastic's protecting where your elastic on your short is, your legs are protected.
Yeah.
And it's just great. Some people like short liners, 3-inch. Some people like 8-inch. Some people run, you can try different materials. And then you don't have to wash your short every time either. Yes. So you can just wash your liner and not wash your short. So it's got like that. Is always easy. And you can wear your liners as regular underwear.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It really is. So the way that this relationship kind of came about was Brian and I ended up at a table together at lunch, very, very randomly. But the week before, like I was looking to invest, I was going for what we called lucky number 10, my 10th effort at the 100-mile distance. And I was just, I've DNF'd a lot. This is my backstory. I DNF'd 8 of 9 attempts. And so I was just looking to invest in my 10th effort, and it came to mind, I was like, I'm gonna do path. And I like gear, but I'm always form over function. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love the way things look more than the way they perform. And so I love the colors of path, and so I was like, and I remember that video that Billy did, and so I was like, I'm gonna invest in those shorts for myself. Like, I'm really gonna try and go for this. And so I bought them, and then a week later, we're at lunch, and you're like, oh, you're the guy from Borderlands. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're going for the 100? And we're talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm with Path. I'm like, are you kidding? This is unbelievably random. I just bought these shorts. So I guess my first question for you is, I introduced you as a co-founder. I think maybe I saw that on LinkedIn, that language. Is that the right language to describe you? I mean, tell me about being co-founder of Path. Because you weren't there from day one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think we, Scott and I moved out to Utah, and then Scott and I got connected through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
We started, he had me up at Powder Mountain. We started snowboarding together, and, inevitably started talking shop, and after a couple of times hanging out and talking, I ended up actually being like, hey, Scott, I have this idea about Path and where the brand could go and where the product could go.
So you guys, your first time hanging out it wasn't built around potentially doing something together? It was just couple guys going snowboarding?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mutual friend that knew each of us kind of from the industry and said, hey, you guys should get to know each other.
Yeah.
And he had moved here and I was here. And so it kind of worked.
So I'll tell a little bit of what your backstory, and you fill it in. Like, you were at Huckberry, and Huckberry, it's just about on everybody's consciousness. Everyone knows about it. And you were there in some critical growth years, and you were doing a lot with apparel while you were there.
Yep.
So is that what you're doing for Path, what you did for Huckberry? And if yes, what is that? What exactly are you doing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was at Huckberry for almost 7 years. It was, an awesome time.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I came on there to just really grow their house brand. So all the product that they were making.
And that's Flint and Tinder?
There's Flint and Tinder, Proof, Wellen. There's almost 10 brands now.
But you had a company before too, so you sold to them?
Yeah. So
they brought you in.
I started in the rags business, manufacturing jeans in San Francisco, and I was selling them to a bunch of small boutiques in major cities around the U.S. And it was like a one-man show, but I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and got an opportunity to get started in a small way. That was a side thing that I was able to kind of barely make it as a one-man show for, and I did that for almost 3 years, and Huckberry was my biggest retailer.
Okay.
And so...
And you're what, 20 something when you're doing that?
Yeah, early 20s.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they were looking for someone. They'd just acquired Flint and Tinder, the brand, and so they were looking for someone to kind of be the brand manager and run that and do that. And it was another situation where I was like, hey,
Cast some vision for them, like, hey, here's what's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And I mean, like, I owe so much to those guys, and they really let me be an entrepreneur within at least a little bit bigger of an ecosystem than just a one-man show. So, and so about 2 years into when I was at Huckberry, we acquired a brand called Proof, which was a technical travel brand.
Okay.
And I really fell in love with the technology, specifically material technology. And we were at a trade show and got connected with Toray. And Toray is this huge Japanese company. Their company motto is innovation through chemistry. They work on the most advanced technical materials. Like they produce Kevlar. That's one of their big things.
Oh my
they
gosh.
do carbon fiber.
Okay.
And they have a textiles division.
Okay.
And the way to think about Toray is that they're, I think, the absolute best as far as technology and quality is concerned, but they don't have the best marketing department.
Oh, this was the company you were telling me that's like Gore-Tex. They're like, you see Gore-Tex, everyone knows Gore-Tex, even though I don't know what in the hell Gore-Tex is, but it's branded, like it's on things.
Right.
So is it a competitor of theirs, or it's a similar kind of thing? Okay.
Yes, similar type of thing.
So they're providing like some sort of technology to brands when they're building material things.
Right.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to go to Japan for a week and tour a bunch of the Toray facilities, see some of their lamination processes, their jet weaving processes, and all of these things, and understand a lot more about their technologies. And I learned a ton from that, but also was just like, loved the quality and the product of Toray.
Yeah.
The big negative and why you don't see it really also is because it's really expensive. Okay. So a lot of the big brands, they're like, no way, we can't touch that stuff.
So was Huckberry was using them?
So we started using them a lot for the Proof brand. And
okay, got it.
And that's how I got to know them a lot. And then I think it was 2020, somewhere in that range, I came across Path Projects. Okay. And so at Path, we have a really tight relationship with Toray.
Oh, really?
And And so like we team up with them and work super closely with their team in Japan to develop our fabrics.
Yeah.
And I came across Path, and the Toray story was there, and for me specifically, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like the craziest thing. So I became a personal Path customer.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
And it was kind of like, how are they doing it? And it was awesome. So I'd known about Path. I guess it was from that point.
So when you were hanging out, and after you were working here in Park City, when you were hanging out, you knew that Scott had done Path, like you were a fan of it. You're cool. You're hanging out with someone who owns a brand that you use.
Yeah, It was really interesting because like when we were on the chairlifts and talking, like I was telling him my business plan, and plan for Path was always not just running shorts. That I wanted to make apparel, and I wanted to make it a brand that was based in running, but would make training clothes and casual clothes and just be a really cool brand, because there wasn't really a brand I loved. I was buying most of my clothes from Huckberry because I liked the brands they carried, and proof pants that used the Tory fabric I was buying. So we were having this conversation, but the problem is that I'm not a product development person and not a merchandiser. And we had the three of us that Eric and I started the brand. We brought in Floris Gearman, a lot of people might know from running, who was like a marketing guy, big runner. He was great at marketing, running our website, but we really had like a piece of the puzzle missing. And I was talking to Brian about we're just stuck in what we're doing. We're making great running gear, but we just can't make a lifestyle piece that people like and that our running company that we get. And we started talking about it, and Brian's like, this is the brand I've always wanted to build in my life, is what he told me.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So then I started talking to my partners, introduced him. We started having calls, talking. And then he joined us about 1.5 years ago. And when we say co-founder, because I feel like when Brian came, the brand restarted. So from where we were to what we are now has been a different brand over the last 18 months, what he's brought to the company. So, and that's what I tell my partners, like what we had before, this is a new brand. And we're taking what we had and we're building the house that we wanted to build on top of it.
One of the things that when Brian and I were talking offline, one of my comments that I made about you, because I've been the founder of a lot of things, and that's when you're a founder, that's kind of a sacred term to a degree. It's like, that's kind of what we do. We found things. So to share the founder name, like to share that title with others, that I said, that says something to me about Scott. Was that hard to do, to pass off the founder, co-founder? I mean, you founded a lot of things in your life, so.
Yeah, I mean, I as you know, probably as being an entrepreneur, is that you do nothing by yourself.
Right.
And there's always a key group of people in the beginning that help you build the company, whether it's one or two of you start it and you bring in the 3 key hires that make it all work. To me, we were all co-founders of it, because it wouldn't have happened without them. So it's not, to me, who's been there at day one. It's like who's came in to really make it become successful. Because I wouldn't say we were successful before Brian came. We were there. We were making a great short. We were selling a lot of that short. But we were just, a very niche, small brand. So
that's interesting. I mean, and I think about Huckberry and, the massive amount of sales that they've done, and you were there those 7 years. There was an insane amount of growth in those 7 years. What did you see in Path? Like, if you could, what's the elevator version? If you could synthesize what I saw, this is the brand I always wanted to build or be a part of. What is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's core to who I am, right? I love the style. I love, I'm a big runner, big mountain biker, big snowboarder. I love all of those things. And the aesthetic is right. And then the commitment to just using the best materials, and the commitment to just not trying to be a huge brand that appeals to everybody, but, niche enough, but have a very distinct positioning. So I mean, again, if I were to create a brand, it was so closely tied to where Path was going or started. And really I was nights and weekends for a while working on this is kind of what the vision would be, and everyone really loved it. And awesome. So we've been spending the last 18 months building it. And
As a consumer of the brand, here's how I would characterize it, and you just tell me if I'm close or, whatever. I think about, the colors are really good, and I don't even know how you describe them, but they're desaturated, sort of earth sort of tones. They're easy to wear, and also what's nice about them, they match with each other pretty interchangeably, which is great for me, who doesn't know much about what clashes and what works. And then it feels like it will last a long time, which for a price point, I don't remember what I paid for the shorts. You probably know better than me. 60 somewhere in there.
I think we're
58.
58 is where we are for the shorts
so you want them
now.
to last, and I
probably
really,
when you bought them, they were a little less.
yeah. And I when I bought them, like, and I ran the Zion 100 miler in them, and they held up just like zero wear on them, and I put them through a lot, so they're gonna last. But I think like the color makes them unique to me. The quality for the price makes them unique. Meaning, I guess it's because you're going direct to consumer. You don't have a middleman that eats up some markup and makes them more expensive. Am I onto it? Like, how am I close to how you describe it? Either one of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we started the brand, the foundation was the best quality materials. A reason for every part, every zipper, every pocket, why it's there, where it balances, timeless. So not having something that's seasonal, that like, oh, that color's great this year, next year I hate it.
Yes.
And just having an aesthetic that you could wear running, but you could go get coffee in or go get lunch, and you don't feel like, hey, I'm a runner, look at me. I got all these big logos and bedazzled stuff all over. It's for me, I love mid-century modern. I love quiet style. I love brands that are just have the right aesthetic, less is more kind of feeling. So that was my thing. I'm building the perfect brand, and that was where I was.
So you go ahead.
Yeah, well, one thing I think about a lot is like the opening the drawer moment. So like one of the biggest ways a customer interacts with the brand is in the morning when they're tired or whatever, and they open their drawer and pick out what they're going to wear for the day.
Yeah.
And I think, whether it's grabbing something to go on a trail run, or, you're going to work, or whatever the case is, like after you do your laundry, we want Path to be like the first thing you grab out. And to me, that brings in the idea of quality, where time after it comes great out of the wash.
Yes.
The color is like, oh, I don't have to think about this. It's like effortless style. I can wear it with anything.
Yeah.
And it kind of captures all of that.
When I hear that, like, as a consumer, I think, I want all that too. When I put myself in the position of like being on the business side of things, I've done coffee, and I've managed supply chain on coffee, within real estate stuff. Managing, you make it all sound so simple, but managing supply chain of apparel, to me, like I've done apparel in that I go to the screen printer and I've got some shirts and I pick that shirt and then they screen print something on it. Like, who's managing supply chain, and how many moving parts are there? Like when you say I want the material to be a certain way and the color to be a certain way and all that, like it took you 2 minutes to say it, but like the reality of managing a supply chain like that, to me, I think is like a great barrier to entry in terms of people coming to compete with you. Even if they had your ability to design and concept colors, supply chain to me just feels crazy.
Yeah, I think I'll let Brian take it, but I mean, our company, there's 4 of us. I've been doing apparel and footwear for 30 years.
Yeah.
Brian's got 10 plus years in it. Eric has 30 years in the apparel industry.
Oh, gosh.
Floris was at Volcom and Tilly's and marketing and that side. So between the 4 of us, we have, 100 and something years of experience, and we learn from good people, all of us, and what we did. So I think, there's something I've started a brand in the garage when I knew nothing 30 years ago. But when you get people that have all done it, like we kind of know all the potholes and stuff.
That's interesting.
But you can probably take more on the details of managing it.
Well, I mean, first of all, like, we're working with suppliers that we've been working with for a long time. So we have
prior to this company,
right?
Okay.
So like it's familiar people that we've been doing this with a long time, but it is definitely a daunting and scary thing. I think it's similar to when someone's like, you ran 100 miles, like,
of course,
and you're like, of course, I've done it, I've tried it 10 times or what, but
That's a good
it's
point.
like one of those things where, I guess it is crazy when you actually think about it and say it out loud, but and not to say it's easy, it's definitely takes up a ton of our time, energy and thought and discussion. But at the same time, it's kind of like we've been just doing it for so long. But
I mean, I think we've tried to be smart with it too. Like we find a fabric vendor that we love, we work with them. We have 2-3 factories that we built relationships with that we have a great relationship with. And within the fabrics that we use, we build a collection kind of. So we use Prime Flex on like 5 different items, from a pant to shorts to the hat I'm wearing to, you know, and then we've got new fabrics that we bring in, and we're like not just going to make one garment out of it. This could work in 3 different things. So it's not like trying to make 50 garments out of 50 materials, which would be a nightmare, like supply chain wise. But if you're making 50 and you're using 5 different fabrics, you know, then you can control what you're doing and how you're doing it a little more. So
when I think about like, okay, I'm going to go start something like this. I'm going to start a business. Like I want to do apparel, but I want it to be custom.
Yeah.
And I think about all the barriers, like, oh, I want it to look a certain way, but I can't. So I think you find a factory and you have these discussions. So you've got that solved. And it sounds like there was a bit of a missing piece of like also the creativity behind what you say to those factories. Like not only now you have the factories, but what are you going to have them make? So like there's a massive scope there. What are your challenges right now? Like with all the horsepower across path, you've got a ton of horsepower. What's the sort of thing that leaves you scratching your head right now? Like as you're trying to grow, as you're looking for growth, like when the owners are together and you're thinking through it, like what are your barriers right now?
I mean, I think when Brian came on, we had the plan and we started, you know, he brought some new suppliers that were like missing pieces for us. We had the person that made our shorts that were great, but the person that was making our shorts and our shirts and our baseliners wasn't that great. It was a domestic factory, and it was good, but it, you know, sizing was all over the place. The margin was terrible.
And that liner's critical to your...
Yeah, and I mean, they made the liner good.
Yeah.
But it was just, I mean, the liner was one thing they got pretty well, but there's a lot of problems like working with them long term. But Brian brought some new suppliers, so I think we spent a year bringing on these new suppliers, bringing on new product. And for a year, we're just like, oh, this is going to be great. We built a new website.
Yeah.
And when we launched everything starting in the beginning of the year, it's like, well, are these factories going to execute for us? Or is everything going to be there? Is it going to come in on time?
So like if your marketing is dialed and you're actually making the sales, are you going to have the product to support it?
Well, we don't put a product out until we don't market it till it's out, but are they going to come in time? Because it's hard. Like a lot of times factories can be great, but it takes them a little while to learn your garment. So are we going to have bumps? Is it going to work out? We ended up like, just because we were running on a tight time frame, we ended up airing in a lot of product and doing stuff that we wouldn't normally do. But, you know, I would say the last 6 months has been blown away our expectations. And Brian and I just had like a long meeting all day yesterday on strategic planning for the next year and a half. And we really feel like we've kind of set the table really well. I don't know that there's anything, for us, it's more scaling, bringing on some new people, helping in certain areas where we're getting overwhelmed with, I think. But I mean, I think the hardest part is over at this point. So I had 5 years of ups and downs and grow, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And we finally kind of realigned and relaunched. And
how far in advance does an apparel company have to consider its new products?
So we probably have the longest because, you know, the complexity of the fabrics, and we book everything from scratch and the development and then testing with our athletes and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we have to be completely committed about a year before.
Committed meaning you're laying out cash, like you're that level?
No, but like, well, it's a purchase order, so it's a contract.
Okay.
So, you know, we have some really good, like, because of our relationships, we don't have to pay for it a year in advance.
Got it.
But we're committing to this stuff a year in advance, and that's after we feel good about from testing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's you normally like from the time you think of something till the time you get a sample and tested and you're ready to go to production, it's normally around 6 months from the time we get that. Like from the times we get samples, test it, check everything, get the fit right, get everything at 6 months. And then it can be 8 months to a year before that product comes out. But because we have to put the order in with Toray, and that can be a 4-month to get the fabric, and then it
Yeah.
goes to the supplier, and so and then you've got to get it logistically
Yeah.
and do all the marketing for it and all that side of it.
So if you're thinking that far in advance, what can you talk about right now that's in your pipeline? Like what's coming with Path?
Yeah. So first of all, like this spring, we introduced a couple of new products. The Wadi collection just came out,
which I've worn, and I don't understand because it's so unique. I don't understand how that works, and it's so soft. You got it over there? Yeah, grab it.
Yeah, so we brought the Wadi hoodie, and really this fabric was developed between us and Toray. And
so you have enough clout with Toray where you're like collaborating on, and that's crazy.
Yeah, and what's really a couple of things that are really unique about it, and what we were trying to solve for, is we wanted a fabric that performed super well in high heat and was really moisture wicking, and they have a technology called field sensor.
Yeah.
And essentially, if you look, and we have some pictures on the website of it really zoomed in with lighting, but the face of it has almost like a ripstop texture to it. And then the inside of it has vertical rib lines. And so it's called a multi-layer knit. And so if you think about it, it's like one texture this way and one texture on the face versus the back. And essentially what that does is it moves the moisture from your skin and disperses it up towards the face of the fabric and spreads it out so that essentially your drying time is a lot faster.
Okay, so are you responsible at Path? Are you the go-to person? Are you the point person for form and function? Like, are you designing what these look like and doing what you just did where you're thinking through material?
So for us, it really starts often at the material and like what's the objective of what we want from a performance perspective. So we were looking for something that was super lightweight, but also UPF protectant. And then something that was didn't require a bunch of finishes on the fabric for performance. And I know this is going to get really too nerdy.
How I built this, we're talking. It's curious. I'm curious.
Yeah. So sun hoodies are great because they protect you. But they're often like a bit heavier because they have to block the UV. And then they're also usually have chemical finishes on them to achieve the UPF rating.
Interesting.
And the downside of that is after you wash it, it has diminishing return.
It's less protective against the UV as you wash.
Like a Gore-Tex, like a waterproof. The more you wash it, the more it goes away.
Because the finishes come off in the wash, right?
Okay.
So this we wanted it built into the structure of the knit. And this is where we're working with Toray too, of like, hey, here's the problem we're trying to solve. And they're offering solutions. So we're able to, through the multi-density, it lets less light in. So we're able to create a lighter weight fabric that still maintains a good UPF rating.
And we also don't have any lycra or spandex in it. So that's what usually absorbs water and holds water. So the stretch comes from the way they weave the fabric too.
Okay. All right. This is really important to note. To me, this is another thing that's like the line, separating the liner from the short. Like, how has no one ever done that? Were you the first one to ever
do the wash slots?
Is this?
I don't know that we're the first one. Like, people have used it in different applications, like climbing and stuff like that. But for me, when you're running long distance, you're looking at your watch constantly. And if it's cold, you've got the things pulled over your hands and you're trying to look at it. So
I don't know if my watch is even on. Like, that's my least favorite thing. Is like I've got it all covered up and I'm like, I think the last vibration was go, but I don't know, and I'm not going to take everything off. This blows my mind.
Yeah, it was. And again, for us, like one of the things on building product is my theory was like, let's don't put something in the market unless we can make it better than what's out there. Like, don't just put out a product because we need a t-shirt because it has to be in the line. How do we make a t-shirt better and have a way to do it? So that was one of the functions that we just thought in the long sleeve hoodie that people didn't have.
Another thing I like about why, I don't even know how to describe this, but like these sort of like seams or whatever this would even be called, where these things are connected. Like
it's called a welded seam.
Okay.
And we place them strategically on your shoulder to reduce rubbing or any threads.
Because it's like, I don't know, what I like about it is like, it's like something that's really lightweight. Like it doesn't feel like, I guess that makes sense. Like the threads might be just heavy enough to where you might get some rub.
Yeah. And then, so we have the concept, we really pour a lot of time and energy, all of us, into the fabric. And then, we work with some different athlete partners, us, because we're runners, but also athlete partners to help make other decisions about the garment.
Yeah.
This is why we added this. It's more of a full protection. So it really blocks a lot more sun from your neck, which that was a big piece of it. The watch slot and the placement of the seams and, really everything. We put so much, thought and energy from the fabric to the details of the garment, but then want it to like all wrap up into something that is super easy to wear, goes with everything in your closet. It's timeless style.
Yeah. And this is a little wild color for us.
Yeah.
The other color is light gray and black.
Yeah.
and then we do a t-shirt version and a tank version for racing.
Is this out right now, this color?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. It's a seasonal color.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that because you also have like what would you call it? Like the sleeveless. You have a sleeveless version of this.
The tank.
That's what I run in. Yeah.
Singlets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think about like the materials and you talk about timeless, what makes something timeless? Clearly it's like, I could wear it year after year. Sure, that makes sense. But wearing it year after year and you still look like you care about how you look, that to me feels like the hard piece of timeless. How do you think about that?
It's a great question. I'll start and then you can jump in if you want. There's no better example than the blue jean, right? Like about something where, some fits have come and gone slightly, but at the same time, like, it's iconic from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think what and for us, we don't want you to look at a picture of yourself 10 years ago and be like, oh my gosh,
right.
What was I wearing?
Yeah.
And I think I sure have had some of those moments.
Yeah.
And so for here, it's like, it might not be the trendiest thing out on the trail or the loudest thing, or, we might be missing people seeing our brand logo a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, it's going to look cool now and it's going to look cool in 10 years.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like when you talk things that are trend, it's the size of the logos, the font they use, the cut. Is it super baggy or is it super tight?
Yeah.
Those seasonal colors that we're in and everybody's wearing that color that spring, but then the next spring nobody wants to wear it because everybody wore it. So, for me, it's like color, fit, logo. And if you're low key on all those and really timeless, then it doesn't matter if it's 10 years old or 2 years old. You're not like jumping out like, oh, that was made 2 years ago when everybody was into that font and that big logo.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think about some funny stuff that my brother wore Jabots. Do you remember Jabots? Mm-hmm. The tag on the, the fly. Like certain things that are like to an era that you look at that are, that's 1991.
Well, like right now, the 90s are back. Kids are wearing giant jeans again.
Yeah.
In the 90s, kids were wearing giant jeans and then they went skinny and, it's like, but, the 501 or whatever cut that jean has been around the whole time,
Yeah.
So I think it's going extreme, which you can get attention with, but it also dates it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I can't quite put my finger on, and I think I just always assumed that I knew the answer to this because I first heard about it from Billy Yang, are you a trail running company? Or are you a running company in general? You know what I mean? Was trail running like your go-to-market? Or did Billy Yang just happen to find it and be interested?
Well, for me, I was trail running and I was street running.
Okay.
But I thought from a branding standpoint and just passionately that trail running was a better positioning.
Yeah.
Because you've got scenery. Like you're gonna take pictures of somebody running down the street constantly, or you're gonna take them in a desert, in a forest, and the outdoors and the elements. Like it just, to me, trail running 7 years ago seemed like a lot cooler direction as a foundation than street running. But you know, everybody that trail runs in the streets at some point too. Yeah. And I think the product works in both. Yeah. You know, it works in both environments. And I think we are a brand built on running. Yeah. So I would say running, but you know, and the other thing is ultra marathons really test product in a way that a marathon doesn't. Yeah. If you're running 100 miles or 200 miles in weird conditions and everything else and dirt and everything, and your product works, it's going to work in the street too. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like taking it to the most extreme level, but it works for everyone. If you can accomplish at that level, you can wear it everywhere else.
Yeah, that's a good point. So mentioning your athletes, and it also makes me think of the collaboration that you did with Speedland, and I apologize, I think I'm gonna get his name wrong. It's not on the tip of my tongue. Liam Lonsdale.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's one of your athletes. Like, do you guys, is that a part of your strategy? Do you have a lot of athletes? I mean, do you, what do you do with that?
You know, the company has been so small the last few years. It's really just been people that love our product, and we give them product, and it's more of like a unstructured ambassador for most people. Yeah. Like we set them up with product, we'll use them on shoots. It's more like a club and a group of guys you like hanging out with, or girls, and it just it's more the people we hang out with. And then so we don't have anything formal. We don't have formal athletes that we sponsor or anything like that yet. I mean, we probably will at some point, but in the beginning it's been more like friends and, hey, that guy's up in Alaska. We need this stuff tested in cold weather. Send it to him and let him put it through the
How did the Speedland deal come about? That's a really interesting thing. I mean, I've seen a lot of collaborations right now. It feels like Merrell is collaborating with They did a Huckberry collaboration. I mean, there are so many collaborations coming out. But Speedland, I mean, they're an interesting value proposition in this space. How did that one happen?
You know, we met those guys when they were first starting. Okay. And they came and met with us, and they were showing us what they did. And my background was footwear too, in a way. So, you know, they came and we just wanted to talk about what they were doing, what we were doing, seeing if we could find, like, I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you try and see who can help each other. Yeah. It's more of like, maybe he'll tell me something that I didn't know, and we'll, you know, be able to. So we had just started with like an informal, they hadn't launched yet. And they were like working on their product and what they were going to do. And we just had at my house, we had this informal meeting. They came up. Wow. Came down to Southern California at the time, and then when they met Liam in the Bay Area, and he started being one of their testers and working on their product and one of their athletes, and then at the time we were just like, we should do something together. Yeah. You know, Liam kind of, I think, came up with the idea of like, hey, I want to do a shoe, but can we do it with Path too? You know, kind of thing. Amazing. So that was how we came up with that.
Yeah. It was a cool shoe. It was the black and purple sort of.
Yeah, very Liam.
Is it?
Yeah, it's his colorway he came up with.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mean, okay, so I want to get into a little bit about with your background, because I think it's interesting to think about. I want to kind of set the table with your background and then think about, can you do it again? I know that's a very vague question. Let's start there. What have you done in the past? Split, which is a brand that I wore when I was in the 90s, skateboarding and all that. So you've done Split. Talk a little bit about what you've done.
Well, I mean, I started like most people, not being a kid, not knowing what you're gonna do. Yeah. And I always was skateboarding in action sports, but I went to school for engineering. Okay. And I started working in that in aerospace. Gave me an opportunity to learn how things were made, project management. Got to see the world a little bit, make money. Yeah. And then I had some friends that I skated with that started the brand Split while they were in college at Cal Poly. And then they needed money to get it going, and I was sending them money, and then I became a partner. And then they asked me to help them for a year which were basically out of a garage, literally out of a garage.
Wow.
So in Southern California. So I told them I'd help them for a year when I left TRW, and I came to work with them, and I started learning the industry. And we had split for 13 years and sold it. And then I started one distribution, which was Crew in the beginning.
Okay.
And started that with Angel Cabada, Crew and Supra sneakers. And we built Supra to be a global sneaker brand in the streetwear industry and skateboarding.
Yep.
And I just learned a lot through the whole thing. I've always been a student of business and a student of brands, and building what I built by looking at what other people were doing, the mistakes people were doing. And you know, and I did well enough with those two brands that when I sold, you know, I kind of was retired, but I was young enough that I wanted to do something else. And like I said, this was like an opportunity to do something else. And now it's, you know, we built a different type of brand too. With Supra, we had, you know, a couple hundred employees all over the country, and it was a lot. You know, with this, we've done a different model where we all work remotely. We don't have an office. We work with a lot of people outside, but we have the freedom to do things, and we're actually leaner. Like one of my big things is make it profitable as quickly as possible.
Yes.
And we've never taken investment in. So we've always been self-funded.
Wow.
And the idea is like make it profitable and then put the profits back into the business and grow it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was fortunate enough to have enough money to start it, to get it going. And you know, and now it's pretty much funding itself. We haven't had to bring in investment. And I just think that I'm old school from that standpoint. I feel like that there's so many brands now that they start and their big thing is how much money can we raise?
Right.
Like, hey, we raised 10 million, we raised 20 million. I'm like, that's great, but you got to make 100 million to pay that back.
Right.
Are you really going to do it? You know? And it's more of an ego thing for some people raising money than it is actually making money.
Yeah.
So that's been my side to it, and it's been my philosophy with these guys is like, we're building a brand to make money with, not as an ego project and to raise money for.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you think more like that's more like a small business and less like a startup. Like small, but you're looking for profit quicker. You're looking, you know, cash.
Yeah. I mean, my last company was well over $100 million in revenue, and we made money from year 2.
Wow.
So I think that you can do it, and you know, there's a lot of good brands that work that way.
Yes.
I just think it's you know, when you bring in investors, you bring in partners, and they're going to have their objectives.
Yes.
And sometimes you got to pay them back in a certain time, and you have to do things you wouldn't know was due.
Yeah.
And a really great, you know, guy that I was fortunate to work with Supra and Crew was from private equity. His name was Jeff Drazen, like super smart guy on the Forbes Midas list. And he told me with Crew and Supra when he started working with us, like, and I was CEO, he said, run the brand like you're going to own it forever. Every decision should be like you're going to run it forever.
Wow.
And it really helped take the stress off because I wasn't looking to make that quarter.
You're not just trying to make them happy.
Not make that quarter. Like I had hard decisions of like, we have to do this this way, and it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's going to be better in 18 months. It's going to be way better than what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I think you just learn those lessons along the way, and you sleep better at night when you don't have a big loan to pay back.
Right. Good Lord. Yes. I mean, the place that we're sitting right now used to be a tea and bookstore, and it's my greatest entrepreneurial failure. COVID came, and that was kind of helped us get it closed down. Actually, COVID was a gift to that, because it was finally like, yep, stop trying. But lots of sleepless nights around that one. What I think is interesting, and I think it's a question for both of you. So Brian, let's start with you. That you had a front row seat to some pretty insane growth at Huckberry. I just wonder, like, and this is maybe just a general business question, but also something that I want to apply to Path. It's like, when did you know that it was going to 10x revenue? Like, is there a certain moment, like, is there a groundswell that you feel? Is it just like, hey, we're at 10 million and we're going to be at 100 million and probably in 5 years, like this is what it feels like to be in that. Can you speak to that at all? Like at Huckberry, like what did that feel like? Did you know it, or were you always on your heels?
Yeah, I think I heard this recently, but I think it really nailed it. Of like when you're an entrepreneur or when you're, you know, in the growing or starting phase, like you never have 5 weeks in a row where you're feeling good, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I think so it was just, and then another thing I think about a lot is I listened to a podcast with the founder of Peak Designs, which is like a camera bag company, and he was like, you know, we just decided to like only look at what was right in front of our nose and like do that really well. And I think that's kind of been my entire, like how my entire career has felt, is this like, basically to answer your question, no, like it was just like trying to incrementally be better.
It was whatever the problem was that day was the problem that you.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also, you know, if you can just continue to hone in on your craft and do what you do incrementally better over time, hopefully that pays off.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes it doesn't, but I think, you know, from a just like business, that was another reason that Scott and I got along so well, is like share a very similar like philosophy on what good business looks like. And so, and you know, I think there's also like a good amount of luck that goes into being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And, you know, just, but not fooling yourself that you're super special or smart, but just like trying to, again, like just trying not to get,
Just do the work.
just do the work.
Yeah.
And that's how it's felt at Path. I mean, like we're coming, like this has been our biggest month ever, and people are loving the new stuff and the new website. So like we're feeling great today, but I think, but that just means that in, you know,
Next month will be bigger.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. But again, you know, like, and, you know, working with these guys and Scott, it's like, we also know that too. So we never get too, I think, we never get too
Too full of
high or
ourselves.
too down or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's just,
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, I think for me, it's like you probably are the same way. When you're an entrepreneur, you're overly optimistic.
Yes.
To a
it's,
fault.
It's my, I was going to say, it's my best quality and it's my worst
Yeah,
quality.
and you
I
have
can
to-
always get out of anything. I
Yeah.
know it. I just
Yeah.
know it.
And for me, it's always like, where are things now and where are things going in a market?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you try to copy somebody who's doing something well, try to be the next Lululemon exactly like Lululemon, good
Yeah.
luck.
Right.
You're never going to be as good as that person that started it.
Yeah.
So I think there's always like for me with Path, it was just like, there isn't anybody in this space. It's kind of wide open. You that blue water, open
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
finding that, and then like putting together a business plan, and it never goes as
Yes.
you think.
Yeah.
There's always going to be bumps. You've got to move things a little bit here or there. So and just not making the same mistake twice. And it's really a grind, as you know.
Yeah.
Like everybody always says, oh, that brand came out of nowhere. Well, they've been around 10 years, you know?
Yes.
The overnight
Yes.
brand is usually a
No such
10-year
thing.
story.
Yes.
Like there are very few brands that are overnight brands that were actually overnight. You didn't
Yes.
see the 10 years of them grinding
Yes.
and almost going out of business and whatever else they went through, divorces and everything else
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a grind, and
Yeah.
it's not for people that don't want to grind.
Yeah.
But when you get it right, there's not a better feeling.
Yeah.
When you feel that like everything's hitting, we've fixed the things, and we've got this great runway,
Yeah.
is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're chasing that high a
Yeah.
little bit.
Who's on point at Path for like just watching cash flow? Is that you?
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, okay, so you're saying eat what's on your plate, like what's in front of you, like do that work, because if you do what's on your plate, you're going to get that exponential growth by doing that stuff well that day. And you're in this position where you've got to be thinking a little bit further down the road than eating what's on your plate is thinking longer term.
Yeah.
What, and you don't have to get like super business term on this unless you want to. Like what are the metrics that matter to you? Like what are you looking for that someone, you know, younger entrepreneur, us, like we're like, oh, that we wouldn't have thought about that. Like, but it's something that you in your sleep, you just look at and you're like, oh, that's a metric that's really important to know that like we're going to be okay today or this month?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, it's like, how low can you keep your overhead? That monthly nut that you have to sell above, where can you keep that in the beginning?
Yeah.
And then how do you get your sales above that? So to me, that's always the first sign, and from there, it's like, every business is different, but it's normally margin.
Yeah.
Like, do you have enough margin that you can advertise and do the things you want to do?
Yeah.
How much inventory, how fast can you turn your inventory? It's the basic metrics of like running a good business that you need to do. Like having a good, like my background too, I was the CFO for a while at one of my companies.
Okay.
So I think I understand enough like the metrics of how to make it work. And every business is a little different, the metrics you're trying to hit. But I think for me, it's really like, and what is your ceiling? Where can you get to? You have a small business, but are you going to peak just above profitability and just stick there, or is the market big enough?
That's interesting. Yes.
And I also feel like that, a good business plan, and I've talked about this multiple times to a lot of people, is like having a business plan that's not just written from a book. You write a business plan, you take it to people in the industry, you show it to them, you let them pick it apart. You let as many people pick it apart that have different knowledge of it as you can, so that you can see the things you missed.
Yeah.
And I just think that, and you have that's basically your roadmap. And it goes for a while, but then you move around a little bit. But as long as you have that North Star and you're kind of going for that.
Is there a moment that you can pinpoint, like a single day, like a single feeling, like a purchase order that came in at Split or Crew or Supra, where you were able to exhale? As things, sometimes it's hard to just have like a nice deep breath as an entrepreneur. Like, okay, I can breathe for at least a little while. Is there any moment there where you're like, oh my God, this is working. Like, we're gonna do this?
Yeah, I mean, it was different with every company, but I mean, for Split, it was like, we were building cut and sew and we were terrible at it, and it kept not working.
Yeah.
But then we started getting these t-shirt graphics that were working really well, like Urban Outfitters and different places. Wow. And it was just like everywhere. And when those big t-shirt POs come in, like the cash flow is great. And that like put us over the hump. And with, Crew, we were doing pretty well. But when we came out with the skinny jean and everybody wanted that jean, and the PO numbers just got so big that was like, wow, we made that. And with Supra, it was the Sky Top. Like when we put out the Sky Top, and I got like Sneaker of the Year in Sneaker Freaker magazine, which had always been like giant companies getting that, never been a small independent.
Yeah.
And I think, when that hit at that level, and then the next shoe hit and the next shoe hit, like I think that was for me. And I think, with Path, it was really bringing Brian in, working on this new plan, and probably March when we launched the new website and the first new products started coming in, and seeing how well it was
being
doing.
Received. And
I mean, so it's only been like, we said that like yesterday. We're like, this has only been 3-4 months since we launched, and we're like, feel like we turned the corner. So
yeah. And so are you on point for e-commerce?
Yeah, I think all of our lines are a little bit blurred, but I take on a brunt of that. Yes.
What do you like? How has e-com evolved over even your years at Huckberry to now? Like, what are you still having to like? Is there still like a tip of the spear, like, or is it kind of like you have a certain funnel that you've done for a long time that works?
Right.
You don't have to say what it is. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think really like the tools are gonna continually evolve, but like really sticking to the basics of, presentation, positioning, and just like usability of the website. Like those three things together, and Scott's our head of customer service.
Nice.
Yes, I am.
So like in that,
so if you email, there's a 30% chance you'll get me.
Really, even now?
Yeah, even now.
I love it.
And
because I answer all the stuff that I've been running in forever. So when it's a technical question, it comes to me.
If anyone needs a better snapshot of an entrepreneur, it's someone who's had a company whose revenue has been north of $100 million, who's still hungry to get their hands dirty and still responds to customers.
Yeah.
But that's
so
a huge piece of like that is a huge piece of e-commerce is like listening to your customers and being able to address the website. So we work on the website, constantly updating that. I'd say like one huge change is, first of all, like with Meta, and since the privacy updates and all that, like it's all AI now. So the barrier, I guess what I'm trying to say is the barrier to entry has gotten so much lower. Like you let the machine do everything. With Shopify, like when I started in e-commerce, it was hard to build a website. And now with Shopify, you know, barrier to entry is so low, and that tool is so powerful and all that kind of stuff. So I think just go back to like the basics. Always, you know, make long-term decisions. Really, I'm a huge believer in the right copy and the right voice, and like making sure you're talking to your customer. You're presenting things clearly. You have a very clear communication with them. I mean, there's no secret. It's just crowded, more crowded.
I think the one thing Brian brought that was huge for us was the content and the way the product's shown. Like the photo shoots we've been doing, the people we've been using in the photo shoots, the way we show the product, the way the product jumps out, you know, whether it's a digital ad or on the website. Like he's taken that to like a whole new level that, like when you see it, you're like, oh, I love it. You know, you know, there's making the product come alive and looking like I want to look like that person wearing that thing, I think is huge. Like, and I think that takes a certain talent that I don't have. So
I think as much as things, when I'm here, based off what you both said, as much as things change, they stay the same. Because in the end, there'll be these moments where it's like, yeah, if I can create a great website, I can have a competitive advantage with a great website. Then the market changes, and Squarespace and Shopify make it to where it's now no longer a competitive advantage to have a good website. Everybody has a good website. So then you're back to how good is your product, how good is your customer service. In the end, like, as long as there's been businesses, that's what it's been about.
Yeah, I think the big thing I've learned over e-commerce, because when I started, there was no e-commerce. There wasn't even an internet. It was a fax machine.
Were you shipping were the catalogs, anything?
No, the reps would fax orders in on a fax machine. So you come in the morning, there'd be a roll of all these little rolled up papers. And then we would just unroll the papers and see how many orders we got that day from stores.
That's amazing.
That's old school.
But you're investing, like you said, this came out of your own pocket, and so you must clearly believe in it right now. What do you hope for it? Like, what do you not hope? Like, what do you see happening with Path? Like, completely uproot yourself from reality. Just like, what do you see for? What do you hope for? What do you want it to be?
Well, you know, going through my other journey of like 0 to over $100 million and the amount of people and that side, and having to go sometimes directions for growth that you didn't want to go. I mean, I think we're the four of us have kind of feel like there's this spot we can get to where it's a brand that people know, but not everybody's wearing it. Like if you know it, you're in the know. And we can still keep the quality and the innovation and the focus of what we're doing. But the market's big enough that we can be very profitable and have great lives and, you know, our families and be successful and that type of thing. And for me, I've done it. And, you know, having Brian and Flores that are younger and kind of taking them through that journey, you know, and for me, the ultimate is like getting it to that spot where we're all really comfortable and we're proud of what we've done. And we haven't taken it to a place that we're like, I remember it used to be like this, like really getting it more to a pinnacle. And I'm not going to put a dollar value of where that revenue is. But because when, you know, going back to my other company, when we started Crew, it was like, if we could get to 5 million, that would be awesome, you know? And then you get to there and you're like, oh, that's not, you know. So I don't want to ever put a dollar volume on it, but I think it's more just like looking at that, you know, running it every day like you're going to own it forever. Trying to be proud of everything product you put out, not put out a product just to put it out to get more revenue. And I guess I probably am more at the end of my career where these guys are like looking at it, you know. I would love them to be doing it 20 years from now, you know, and still be loving it, having it.
So being a product guy, how, I mean, can you grow? I mean, we're throwing around numbers like $100 million just for fun. I'm not saying that's your business plan.
Yeah.
Can your supply chain handle like that absurd of growth? You know, like it seems like there's some specialty stuff happening here. Like, you know, I think always with a product minded person, there's this tension between like, hey, needs to be high quality, this, and then I'm not saying this is you, but then there's someone on the other sometimes of like, yeah, we just got to increase revenue. We can maybe compromise quality. Like, can you keep scaling Path and maintaining what feels like some pretty special stuff?
Well, you know, Scott said this a couple times, but like making sure that the market's big enough, and we're a little bit of a niche here, and you know, we're huge. You know, we're trying to grow trail running as an industry and everything, but the broader activewear and the market that our products service the market size is massive. So I think from you know, we could get a lot bigger than we are now, and still be very honed in on our making sure we have the right product. Not just putting product out to chase revenue numbers. You know, keeping the business owned between us. Like we can still like keep all of the principles that we've been talking about.
In play.
And be, you know, way bigger than we are. So I think we have the market size there, and
and I think the business model is made to like, we're making good money at 10 million. We're making really great money at 20 million.
Right.
Like, and I go back to looking at streetwear and brands like that, or the surf brands that took off and went boom, 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 bam.
Oh yeah.
But then you look at something like Stussy, you know, that's just been like, or Obey. You know, those brands where like they grow to a certain level, they make a lot of money and they just keep making money. So you can make it all in a 10-year and kind of have a drop off, or you can make it over 20 years and just be a solid brand. So you can do that in apparel if you have the right brand, especially in outdoor. Like in the youth brands, it's a up and a down because the kids grow out of it and it crashes. But you know, in the outdoor market, the longer you're around, the more credibility you have, the more loyal people you have that are into it. It's not really, I think being around longer is more of a sign of quality and a test of time than it is like a fad.
Now, I've enjoyed the entirety of the conversation, but I will say this is my favorite part of it because I'm such a obsessed fan of Utah that, you know, you're coming from California, from Phoenix, you did some time in Texas.
10 years in San Francisco.
Oh, and then 10 years in San Francisco, got in and out of Texas as fast as you could. I don't take that personally. But we as we do the interview, we're in Salt Lake City, and are you know, we've talked about this some, but tell me, you know where I'm going with this. Are you guys are a Salt Lake City company or a Utah company?
Utah.
Yeah.
We're actually based in Eden.
Okay.
Is where our business is, which is a very, very small town without a stoplight.
But one of the best towns in Utah.
But has great snowboarding, great mountain biking, great trail running. And I'm lucky enough to call that home. And it's been my partial home for a long time. And Brian's been here in Salt Lake City. His wife is going to the university here, getting, you know, went back to school to get a law degree. And so he's here and loves all the outdoor side of it. Our two other partners are still in California. But basically we moved the company here to be based out of here. And we're looking forward to doing a lot of activities here in the Salt Lake area, from, you know, whatever we can do to get involved with the community, to be part of this. And that's kind of our next goal.
Nice. Why? What was it? I mean, it seems like does a headquarter location in a company like you're building, does that just mean something to the company culture or just to you personally? What was the thinking?
You know, it was more personal on the standpoint that when I moved to California, I said I was going to be there a year, and I was there almost 30. So, you know, for me getting out of California, and this company is built for Utah, what we do and how we do it. But I think it works in New York, and it works in LA, and it works in, you know, all the big cities too. But I feel like being an outdoor brand and being in a place that has, you know, whether you're at Zion or you're up in the northern mountains, you know, where I live, the northern Wasatch, like you get everything here.
It's unbelievable.
And it's it's a little bit like our brand. Like you can be in the gnarliest mountains or you can be in the hottest desert.
Yeah.
You know, and it just kind of fits the brand.
Yeah. What about you? What's the thinking for being headquartering here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, since we're a fully remote company today, right? It's a little bit symbolic, but for the same reasons, like Utah really embodies what Path is really, all about. And, our customers in LA are daydreaming about, the access to the mountains that we have here. So I think it's an aspirational place for
aspirational and inspirational
100%.
to the product.
And we're really excited about the trail running community here and share a lot of the same ethos with just the people of Salt Lake and the people of Utah and so
and I think I'm on Powder Mountain and we're looking forward to doing stuff on the mountain, having people up there and doing stuff up there, whether we're bringing people from the industry or athletes or different people, but doing stuff up on the mountain up there because it is kind of a special place at 9,000 feet. So it's a fun place.
Your house is at 9,000 feet?
Yeah, 8,800.
Nice. Do you run like around your house? Oh man, that's great.
Out the door.
That's Olympic style training. You're at that elevation, you can come down here and
and I feel great. Go back up there, I feel sucking air.
Well, maybe just to land the plane entirely, like how would either of you within kind of your realm of specific places, how would you characterize the future of Path? What's next? Like where's your mind at for product,
Yeah, well, so we it takes a long time, as we talked about.
Yeah.
So we've got, a 2-year kind of plan that's kind of like,
wow.
In the product world, right in front of your nose is 2 years. So we've got that, and we feel, and then it's just really a relationship with our customer and iterating and going from there. But we think we'll have the assortment and we'll have the products to like really provide what we want for our customers at that point. So we're kind of there and then see what's next.
Yeah, we've got like 3 more products launching for spring summer that are new, and that will round out our spring summer launch. And we don't do season where it all comes out at once.
Right.
We've got product dropping like every couple weeks, something new, and it comes out when it's ready, not when we have to make a deadline. So, some things don't quite make it, so they get pushed in next year because we're not happy. So we're finishing spring and summer right now. Got a couple products here we can show you guys that we're super excited about that are going to end up summer. And then we start bringing in fall, which is going to be really exciting for us because more cool weather stuff, some really cool products from like some cool lifestyle stuff to some really cool just cold weather running products. So and then we start next year again with spring that we've already got lined out.
So is that how that? I mean, is it like it's a spring fall? You don't do like a summer, or you called it spring summer,
fall winter.
Okay.
That's kind of how we develop product in that cycle. And some stuff carries year round product that's just in the line, but for the most part, the newness comes out in spring, summer, and fall, winter.
Well, I think. By way of conclusion, I think it's interesting. The word that keeps coming to mind is horsepower. Everybody has obstacles. If I were to go start this business, my initial obstacle would be supply chain. Like I know that you have your own, and there's no guarantees. It could be 10x the horsepower, and who knows? But it just seems like right now you're carving your space out. Like, to me, and because I'm obsessed with trail running, it seems like it has its place in trail. If you know what to look for, kind of like you had mentioned at one point in the conversation, it's like a nod, like, oh, you've got Path on. Like it's there, it's at all of the races, and it looks great. And I'm a fan. I'm here for it, and thank you guys for taking the time to be with me today.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Beer was great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Epic.